Today I came across this video from Sean McDowell, which he produced recently. The best evidence for God. He surveys 100 Christian apologists and summarizes the results in this 9.5-minute video. And first of all, I have to say this is one of the more engaging, if not one of the most engaging, well done videos I've seen from Sean McDowell. And I really enjoyed it. I will say at the outset, in case you were wondering, I was not one of the 100 apologists invited by Sean McDowell to reply, sadly. That being said, so I did enjoy the video. In fact, so much so, I found it so engaging that I'm going to make a few video responses to different portions of this video. And I want to begin with the opening. So I'm going to play the opening, like 30, 40 seconds or what have you, where he introduces the project. And then I'm going to offer some thoughts on that project.
I asked 100 leading Christian apologists what they think is the best argument for the existence of God. William Lane Craig, Wes Huff, Nancy Pearcey, Alan Parr, Trent Horn, Stuart Connectley, and more. Some of the answers were completely expected, and some of them totally took me by surprise. We're gonna look at 5 categories from the least cited to the most cited, most popular, and highlight some crucial apologists along the way. We're also gonna look at why Os Guinness and Doug Grotice wouldn't answer my question.
Okay, so that's the introduction to the video. As I said, I find it to be well produced and engaging. And I think it's a fascinating question, right? To ask people, what is the best argument for the existence of God? What do you think? However, the first thing that came to mind when I watched the video was, okay, you contacted each of these 100 plus Christian apologists and asked them to pause for a moment and respond to the question, what is the best argument for the existence of God? Did you also, since you now had their ear in that same moment and that same opportunity, add just a second question? What is the best argument against the existence of God? And if you didn't do that, why? Why wouldn't you want to hear both the best argument for and against the existence of God when you're already gone to all the effort of doing the survey itself, right? Just add one more question. McDowell does not mention in this video that second question. Maybe he did ask it. I don't see any evidence that he did. And what concerns me is that this is a common problem in Christian apologetics, is that it becomes a one-sided case-building process where you look at arguments and evidence for the existence of God, but not against the existence of God. Now, that's a little bit misleading, because so there is what we call positive apologetics, which is arguments for your view, and also negative apologetics, which is rebutting defeaters or objections to your view. And certainly, these apologists all, or at least most of them, I'm sure, are engaged in some kind of negative apologetics. They're responding to objections and defeaters. But then why not highlight that here? And in particular, note what are the strongest objections and defeaters to the view? What happens is Christian apologetics often becomes functionally a one-sided case-building process in which the apologist is highlighting for the audience really arguments and evidence for Christianity, but not to the same degree and with the same rigor, highlighting evidence against the existence of God and or Christianity. And what that ends up doing then is honestly, it weakens, if not undermines, the intellectual integrity of the entire project. Because if you're only focusing and highlighting for your audience the best arguments for the existence of God without highlighting to the same degree and with the same rigor the arguments and evidence against the existence of God, then you are moving from becoming a purveyor of truth, unvarnished. I calls them as I sees them in the old language story, the umpire calling balls and strikes, and you become a salesperson. You're simply trying to close a sale by presenting the evidence that will persuade the person to buy the product. And that undermines the integrity of the project. Some years ago, I was at a conference, and I heard Hugh Ross speak, who is mentioned in this video. Hugh Ross, I will say, one of the nicest people I've met in apologetics, right up there with like Paul Copan and Mike Licona, and a short list of other really nice people who are Christian apologists. He's right up there. At the end of his talk, he made this comment that I think there are reasons to believe is that his organization, he says, and by the way, he has a background, I believe, in astrophysics, so he is a scientist by background. But he said, if there's any evidence that comes up in the media from science that supports Christianity, he promised it would be on our website within 24 hours of like the news release. And I had two objections or concerns or problems with that. The first concern, objection, or problem is, well, figuring out the implications theologically of the scientific information is a very complex enterprise. So, for example, when Big Bang cosmology was proposed originally as a model of the origin of the universe in the 1950s and going forward, there are many people who right away jump to the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, God saying, "Let there be light," and equating the two. And I would say now in 2025, time and again, history has shown that to make that as a simple conflation or simple identification was a foolhardy move because it's much more complex than that. And of course, now there are all sorts of theories about the universe. Well, first of all, the Big Bang theory not actually bringing us back to the beginning. The Big Bang could be embedded within a larger universe. We could be in a black hole. I mean, the conversations go on and on and on. Simply trying to make these quick, facile identifications. Oh, this is what God was talking about in Genesis 1 is foolhardy. You don't make those decisions, figure out what those connecting points may be in 24 hours. The even bigger concern here is this. Hugh Ross didn't say, and I also promise you that within 24 hours, any evidence against Christianity from science will be on our website. Only evidence for Christianity. The one-sided case building process, which undermines the integrity of the entire project. And that's my concern here. If you're going to do a survey and ask everybody, all these apologists, what's your best argument for the existence of God? But you don't do the same against the existence of God, that's really weakening, if not undermining the project. Another way to flip that around, of course, would be to have another survey. Survey 100 skeptics of theism and Christianity and ask them, what's the best evidence and argument against the existence of God? I would love to hear from them. I would be very fascinated to hear that. And so I would invite Sean McDowell, do a part two, either, well, I would say both for the Christian apologist, but especially go to the effort of identifying 100 skeptics and ask them, what is the best argument against the existence of God? And let your viewers know about that. Don't be afraid, as I'm sure so many Christian apologists are, that they will lead people astray. Because what you should be concerned about above all is truth. And truth involves the rigor of presenting all the evidence and arguments for and against a particular proposition, not just one-sided, but both sides or all sides, as the case may be. So that's the first of my responses to McDowell's video. I'm going to have some follow-up videos to come, so stay tuned.